On day 4, we're going to be heading back across the country. First, we will go to Caesarea Maritimia and look around there. Then we will head to Megiddo, where we will spend time and eat lunch, go to Nazareth and look there, go back to Cana, and then on to Tiberias for the night. We get up early at the hotel and head out to do some looking. There's the Crusader walls from the 1200s. We find old and new mixed together here. But our main looking is going to be watching the sunrise over the Sea of Galilee. After sun has come up, we go over to the harbor and see the fishermen's boat, and also the sports boats and the boats that are used for carrying tourists around on the Sea of Galilee. There's our hotel in the center of the picture, and after a few more pictures, we head back into Tiberias. This city is one of the 4 holy cities of Israel. It is where the Jerusalem Talmud was produced. Also, schools of prophets, rabbis, and scholars were here. The Crusaders and the Muslims fought over this area, off and on, all the way from 1200 to about 1300, and the final battle was fought over a siege of this city. As said before, there are a mixture of old and new towns here. This is our hotel, and over here you can see there is civilization in Tiberias. And then we get back to the hotel and it's time to eat breakfast before heading out for the day. We will be driving west, so we head up into Upper Tiberias and look at that area again. We came in that way, but it was dark so we couldn't see very well. And then we're driving through Galilee. Galilee is an area of rolling hills and agriculture. Soon we're passing the Horns of Hattin, where the last battle of the Crusades was fought. A Muslim army was besieging Tiberias, and a Crusader army was coming to relieve them. They met at this place, and 20,000 Crusaders died and 30,000 were sold into slavery, and it was a total and complete victory for the Muslims.
Meeting, Christians will live there. If there is nothing special, then very likely it's a Jewish community. So this village is primarily Muslim.
Next we're passing the water treatment plant. That pumping station in the Sea of Galilee pumps water here, and then it's distributed around the nation. And there on Mount Carmel is Mukraka. This is where Elijah came to challenge the prophets of Baal. Oh, look at it, it's trying it again. Called fire from heaven. He was totally victorious. This is probably a real site, for there at the base is the Kishon River that they went to get water from, and where he killed the prophets. This sanctuary was built here in 1826 by the Carmelite nuns. And it has a beautiful sight across the Jezreel Valley. Mount Carmel is a beautiful area and is forested in most areas. We'll be going through Wadi Ara, one of the passes through the Carmel Range, as we head towards Caesarea. As we drive into Caesarea Maritimia, we drive past the Crusader section. We will not be going in there. It had a dry moat around it, but we will look at that from some pictures I have taken at a later time. As said before, it was a dry moat. It did not get flooded, and this is what the front gate looked like. And this is a reconstruction of it with its drawbridge. You'll note that the inside chamber has Crusader arches, and you always took a right turn when you came in a Crusader gate, because you defended yourself with your right hand. And notice how it scraped against the wall and therefore rounded the corners off with their armor. The town that Herod built between 22 and 10 BC looked something like this. And this is the area the Crusader fortress was in. The ships entering the harbor would be entering the largest port in the world at that time. It was self-flushing harbor with the tides. They would sink barges and fill it with hydraulic cement and then build the warehouses on top of that so they could load out ships. This is where Paul set sail from on his missionary journeys, and this is the inner. But what you can't see is how large the harbor really is when you get an aerial picture. The water came up to the edge of the grass here, and there were docks for docking the ships, and you can see that a huge temple to Caesar Augustus was built on top of the platform. In Byzantine times, 100,000 people lived here, and they built an octagonal church there. And this is what it looked like when I first came. You had the Crusader fortress and the theater, but nothing in between. Now all of this has been excavated. It is now time to get off our bus and to start looking around. First we'll go to the Hippodrome and see it. Then we'll go to the Promotora Palace before going to the theater. The Hippodrome has half of it washed away into the sea, but it was designed to seat 30,000 people to watch the horse races here. This would also have been used for gladiator fights and fighting wild animals. The chariots would start at the upper end, at the gates, and this is what a race would have looked like. It had plastered walls around it with paintings on them, like this. This is one of the gates that the animals and gladiators came in to do their fighting. These are the starting gates for the chariots, and this is where the VIPs sat. Later it was decided that this needed to be made into houses because of the prime real estate looking like this, so they moved the Hippodrome out of town. And here's some of the floors and fountains from those rich houses. And now it's time to go over the Promotora Palace that Herod built. This is where Paul was imprisoned. But first let's look at this stone. This is the only evidence that exists in the Holy Land of Pontius. And what it says is Pontius Pilate the Prefect of Judea, a building dedicated to Tiberius. All of Acts 8:40 through 12:33 happened in this area. This is where Paul was imprisoned, somewhere on this promenade. This is where his trials were held, that decided he needed to go to Rome to stand trial, probably in this courtyard. And this is the swimming pool, fish tank, fountain, we don't know exactly what, for the palace. Herod always liked water. The floors of the palace were marble and mosaics. Now moving along, it's time to head to the theater. This theater held about 35,000 people and is fairly well preserved. First we go look at some of the pieces that would need to put together. They came from all over the world, marble, for this city. The theater is now set up for some kind of concert, and Deborah's photographer did a devotion there about Peter and Cornelius. This theater could have been flooded, and they had mock naval battles in it on occasion. This is also where the incident in Acts 12 happened, where Herod Antipas came out dressed in royal robes, and people called him a god, and he did not deny it. So God struck him dead right there on this stage that you're sitting at. And you can see this is what it would have looked like at that time. Now it's time to head over and see the aqueducts, the upper aqueduct and the lower aqueduct. Most people just look at the upper one. But I wanted to take a gander at the lower one this time. It runs from the Crocodile River about 2.5 miles. The upper aqueduct runs 8 miles from Mount Carmel. This is how the water got into Caesarea, and it was built in two sections, first part on the right and then on the left. As you can see, it has a channel that would have been plastered and covered over to protect the water. And right here is the Mediterranean Sea, and everybody wanted to dip their feet in. Now it's time to head back northeast, going through Wadiara, heading to Megiddo. Soon we're arriving at the hill of Megiddo.
Which is where we're going to visit next. When we enter from the bus to
We will be eating lunch here before we start to look around and tour. We'll have fries and falafel. First we'll look at the model and see what we're about to see. Here's the gate that was made during Iron Age, or during the Israelite gate. The stables or granary. Then as we look under this area, we see the cultic area that we will be looking at. And this is a seal of Shema, servant of Jeroboam, king of Israel. This is what it looked like when they first started excavating. The idea was to take it down layer by layer all the way to ground level, but they soon found out that was not going to work. After 4 layers, they found out there were things they wanted to preserve, but they had to destroy them to see what was under it. When they first started, the tell was 70 feet tall, 24 layers that had been laid down over 2,700 years. There had been 16 military campaigns fought here, with the first being Tutmosis III in 1468 BC, and it's drawn on the walls of a temple in Luxor. The last one was General Allenby during World War I. So today it looks like this. We will start out at the gate area, and then we will move to the palace area in Silo, over to the observation point, see the cultic area, go to stables, and then some of us will walk through the water tunnel. Most of the things on top today are from Iron Age or Israelite period, and this is what it probably looked like at that time. As we head over to the gate area, we see the pedestrian steps that came down to a pool for getting water, and also kept the people off the chariot ramp. And then we head up to the gates. The first gate we come to is the Canaanite gate, because it is lower down. It was built during the Bronze Age, and the boards you see are marking where the excavation stopped and the reconstruction started above it. And this is what it probably looked like at that time. And now we climb a step to the Iron II gate. Either Ahab or Solomon built this one. As we continue on through this gate, this is what it looks like, a massive gate with 2 different gates actually. And this is the chariot ramp you would have gone up into the city. And now we continue on across the top over to the palace area and grain elevator. One thing you need to understand about these cities is that the governor and his wealthy friends lived in the city along with their soldiers and other government officials. The poor people lived outside. They brought in the grain in order to pay taxes. But when the war came, they couldn't let the people outside in, or they wouldn't have enough food during the siege. So they locked the doors and they were outside when the other armies attacked. This grain elevator could hold over 1,000 tons of wheat, and you went down one side and up the other. Now looking across the Jezreel Valley, you're looking at Armageddon. Har, meaning hill, Megiddo. Har Megiddo has been corrupted into Armageddon. And this is the view. That little hill sticking up by itself right there is Mount Tabor. And here's another good look at it, just a little bit to right of center. Over there is Nazareth as it spills down the hill into the Jezreel Valley. And this is what the cultic area looked like, one temple on top of another. First this one was there, and then they had this altar that was there during the time of Abraham, and then a monumental building was built by the Canaanites and Egyptians, and this altar came out of it. And this is what it looks now, a jumbled mess of walls, but that round structure there, Canaanites were making sacrifices on it when Abraham was alive. And structures like this are found all over Israel during this time period. Some call them stables and some call them granaries. We're not exactly sure what they were. They might have been stables for Solomon's or Ahab's horses and chariots, or they might have been places to store grain in sacks and not have to put them in that silo anymore. And now our group breaks up. Some who walk better are going to be heading down the water system. This tunnel is 215 feet long and dug 120 feet deep into the ground. It's 183 steps down and 80 back up on the other side. As you walk down the modern steps, if you look to the right, you can see the old steps they would have actually walked down. They dug this through bedrock with hand tools. Think about descending into this darkness with a candle and a water jug. And then once you have descended the 120 feet into the darkness, you then must walk along 215 feet of tunnel to get to the water at the end. Now modern people don't have to walk back up. They have a way up on the other end, 80 more steps. And then we head out through the Jezreel Valley, and some of the wheat still hasn't been harvested here. And as we get closer to Nazareth, we see the Hill of Precipitation, a highly traditional place where they say the people tried to throw Jesus off of it. And then we go through a tunnel and we're in Nazareth. Nazareth has grown a whole lot since Jesus' day. In his day, it covered just this small area here. Because there's no place to park at the Church of the Annunciation, we'll have to walk up to it and push a few wheelchairs along the way. Soon we arrive and we settle in for a time of remembering Mary and the angel and the announcement that she got.
The angel told her, "Do not be afraid, Mary, for you have found favor with God. Now listen, you will conceive and give birth to a son, and you will call his name Jesus."
Around the walls are many pictures and artistic works of the Madonna and Child given by various nations around the world. The front doors are also a work of art with many scenes from the life of Jesus.
Well, how is your second day in the land of God going? It is amazing to me that so many people come by here each day to look at where my son lived over 2,000 years ago. But then he was the Son of God also, so I guess I should expect that. This was such a small town when we were here. We knew every one of the 20 families and had real close bonds with all of them. We attended synagogue here also. It was such a disappointment to me when they rejected his teachings. Well, it seems that a lot of people follow them now. Wasn't Caesarea wonderful? Just to think of all that people could build back then. And walking through that water tunnel in Megiddo dug by hands over 3,000 years ago. Wow. Well, have a good time in Cana. I hear some of you are going to renew your wedding vows there. I went to a wedding once there also, and my son did his first miracle there. Be sure to drink some of the wine there. I hear it is very good.
There have been several churches built here since the 200s. And this is the most recent one, built in 1969. The most important thing here is this house, which has been called the House of Mary, and probably where Jesus grew up for 30 years. There are several archaeological reasons to believe that this is an authentic site. To the left is a chapel to Cana, a martyr from the 1st century, and seems to have been here since that time. And this is what it looks like inside, with various sections. If this is not where Jesus lived, you can pick up a stone and throw it from here and hit it. So it's a good place to remember that for 30 years Jesus lived in Nazareth. While the lower church is very plain, the upper church has many beautiful windows and mosaics in it. This is the artwork given by the United States to remember the Madonna. And then outside there's a covered area, as you can see in the courtyard. This is over caves that exist underground. And they would have been here in the time of Jesus. People don't know if they're houses or if they're simply cellars for storing things. But as you can see here, there are several of them under this area. And now it's time to head back to our bus and get on to head to Cana. This is an interesting saying from the Muslims. It's a quote from the Holy Quran about how Christians, Jews, and Muslims should get along together. On the way out of town, we passed Mary's well. It still flows, but just a little trickle now. People have been gathering water here for over 2,000 years. And this is the Church of St. Gabriel behind that well. The water flows into its crypt area. A church is mentioned here as early as 670 AD by travelers in the area. And you go into the crypt, and there is the water flowing. Tradition says that Mary was at a well when the angel came to announce the birth of Jesus, and she ran home. And now we're headed out of town. We will have to again walk through the city. First we'll see the Greek Orthodox Church, but won't go in, and then we'll go to the Franciscan Church at the wedding. This is a sundial that they have for telling time. And there's the Greek Orthodox Church in town, but we won't be going in there. If you look over to the right in this picture, the green domes is the Franciscan Church, and that's where we're going. Arrangements have been made there to renew wedding vows. About 20 years ago, they had to do some repairs in this church, so they did some excavations and found an older church dating back to 670 AD in the basement, and so they have made it where you can go and visit those ruins. We're standing right now in the apse of that old church that was here. And here we're walking by one of the houses that would have been in this area. Upstairs a worship service is going on, and we don't want to disturb it, but it's a very beautiful church. We head to the designated area, and it's time for those who want to renew their vows.
In the sight of God to witness and bless the reaffirmation of the marriage covenant, which was established by God and created us male and female for each other. With his presence and power, Jesus graced the wedding at Cana in Galilee, and in his sacrificial love gave us the example for the love of husband and wife. Husbands, I'm going to ask you to repeat after me first. You will echo my words. In the name of God, and with a thankful heart, I once again declare that I take you to be my wife, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poor, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, until we are parted by death. This is my solemn vow. Wives, I invite you to repeat after me. In the name of God, and with a thankful heart, I once again declare that I take you to be my husband, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, until we are parted by death. This is my solemn vow. Let us pray. Oh God, you have so consecrated the covenant of Christian marriage that in this is represented the covenant between Christ and his church. Send therefore your blessing upon these couples, that they may surely keep their marriage covenant and so grow in love and godliness together, that their home may be a haven of blessing and peace. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. You may share the kiss of love.
That's a hug, not a kiss. You did it. After we renew our vows, we head to the bus, and there's Nathanael's church. He was also from Cana of Galilee. And soon we're coming out of the hills to Tiberias, this time during the day, so we can see it better. And there's the Sea of Galilee on the other side of it. We reach our hotel in Tiberias, the one on the left, a little bit further from the shore, and it's time to say goodbye to the end of day 4.